That planet has been ravaged, plundered, and poisoned. There's nothing left.
The charts were wrong. The atmosphere is breathable. Bo-Katan was right.
That planet has been ravaged, plundered, and poisoned. There's nothing left.
Bo-Katan was right.
What?
G'day guys and welcome to Raging Rhino. It's time for episode 2 of season 3 of The Mandalorian. Now after last week's episode and how anticlimactic that really was, it's going to be interesting to see whether or not they can pick it up and tell a decent story within this season. Based on what we got last week, I don't think that there's too much that they can really do to recover, but we'll have to wait and see. Now, of course, we're going off on these little different adventures to basically come to a conclusion for the big adventure of him taking a bath on Mandalore and redeeming himself. So we're going to have to see where this goes in regards to the story, where we're going. He's already gone to 3 different planets in that first episode, and of course, they're trying to set it all up. Based on what we did see last week, there was a lot of problems with it in regards to the story, the acting, the editing, all of that sort of thing was really, really bad, and basically the continuity from previous seasons. So again, it's going to be very interesting to see how this all ties together and how well they can actually put it together, and whether or not we're going to get pretty much more of the same as last week's episode. Anyway, it is a 45-minute episode, so let's get straight into this. If you are new here, you get to see some of my reactions as we go through the episode, and then at the very end, you get to hear my review and my thoughts of the episode. So let's get straight into this.
That planet has been ravaged, plundered, and poisoned.
This was stupid. Oh no, not bringing her back. I kind of hate how they keep making these creatures, like they put in the subtitles just speaking Rodian. Now, first of all, they're not translating it in the subtitles at all. I don't have the biggest problem with that, but what I do have a problem with is the fact that all of these people can just understand each other and they can basically just translate. There's no need for protocol droids or anything like that anymore. I find that really strange within Star Wars, because we're so used to either a translator droid, for example, with Jabba in Jabba's palace or on Jabba's barge with in Return of the Jedi, but it's just like everybody can just understand everybody now. Like this chick, she can speak Jawa, she can obviously speak Rodian, or not speak it, but she can at least understand it. So we've got to translate what he's saying through her responses to it. So I just find it really stupid that they keep doing this.
Put those parts back on the speeder. Paint them so you're lucky I'm a soft.
See, there she goes again. Just, they're speaking in Jawa and she's just understanding everything that they're saying. She can understand droids, she can understand Jawas, she can understand Rodians, she can just understand every language in the galaxy. No need for a protocol droid. Oh, using the Force now to jump around.
Like a lerman. Sorry, pal. No chance, cubes.
So, sorry, no. She can actually speak Jawanese. Like, go back and listen to that again.
Looking for a replacement
I forgot about
IG
this.
memory circuit.
Oh, memory circuit.
I also find it funny that she was speaking to the Jawas earlier in just normal basic, like, hurry up guys, let's get this thing fitted, bring the whatever, the part out, and they can understand what she's saying, but then when he rolls up and she's got to talk to the Jawas, she speaks in Jawanese. It's so, like, disjointed.
Of course you are. You're supposed
Again,
to be
understanding
piloting
droids.
starfighters across the galaxy and fighting tyranny.
Lame.
You're an astronaut.
So what happened to the
Act like
bubble?
one.
Who knows why she's saying, may the
All right,
Force be
kid.
with you. Oh, just immediately at the planet that he needs to go to. Oh my god. And he can just get from Tatooine to Mandalore in seconds. Hyperspace teleportation. He's just landing on Mandalore. I thought he needed to see whether or not the surface was toxic. So he can just understand
Go over to that
astromech
split in
droids
the
as
rock
well?
and take an air.
I'm curious again. I need to go back. He releases him down underneath the ship. So he pops out behind the engine. Let's see where the actual bubble is. Oh my god. Look at that. The bubble is there. He goes straight down and he pops out back here. Consistency. It's great. Watch the seals clap because it's R5. I'm sorry, but that is just pathetic, stupid, and lazy. I need to show you that again. Line it up. Line it up. The bubble is here, right? He goes straight down and he pops out behind the engine.
Question.
Move ahead. The bubble is there. And it's just stupid. It's just stupid. No consistency, no continuity. I'm already pissed off by this episode because we've got Jawa fucker talking in Rhodian, Jawanese, fucking talking to droids. Din Djarin can just understand droids. And people want to say, oh, but Luke Skywalker was able to understand droids. No, he wasn't. He was able to interpret what the droid was saying, but he never actually knew unless it was actually up on his screen in his X-Wing. And that is definitely put in there in the books, the expanded universe. He could never just understand them. He would assume what the droid is saying and respond to that assumption, but never actually specifically know what R2 was saying. This is just fucking lazy.
And hurry up.
And you can hear him and understand him from there? Okay.
Come in, do you read me?
Oh, well, that was quick. R5's fucked up.
Probably just interfere.
How does he pressurize his helmet? And how is Grogu, like, okay, again, another stupid thing. He said he's going to pressurize his helmet. Grogu is in that cockpit, but he just opens it up. What's to say Grogu's not going to toxically die when the canopy's open like that? He doesn't have a pressurized helmet. How do you pressurize your helmet? Is there some sort of invisible force field? It's... oh my god, this is dumb. Make him sound like a bit like Darth Vader in a way. I think you can safely unpressurize your helmet because Grogu didn't fucking die. And this is the other thing too. If he could just pressurize his helmet and walk down there anyway, why did he need a droid? We've dropped the IG-11 idea just to get an astromech, an R5 from A New Hope, and he could have done it the whole thing himself. But no, he didn't. He wanted to avoid it because it was droid work. An astromech. Oh my god, this is so lame. Oh, it's gotten heavy. The saber doesn't like the way he's using it. Oh, and it doesn't cut through him. Oh, R5 made it. I'm sorry, but if you're enjoying this and you can't see the blatant outpoints that these things have, everything that I've pretty much mentioned so far throughout this review, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. You're clearly just turning your brain off and just consume. That's exactly what this all is. Why? Just keep going and see if it's toxic, poisoned.
Hang on, kid. Not until they check the toxicity. You got an analysis on the atmosphere yet?
So he wouldn't let Grogu out because he had to wait and see whether or not the air was toxic, but he's already opened the cockpit canopy while Grogu was in the cockpit. It just blows my mind, the amount of stupidity. Gee, you wouldn't want to run out of fuel in your jetpack. You'll never get out of there.
The mines. I guess we're on our own from here.
What do you mean? You've been on your own the whole time. A big crab droid. What is it? A droid or a sentient being? Or maybe a mixture, a bit like a Grievous thing. Isn't Bo-Katan on a different planet? He's gonna fly the ship. This is why... this is why Mando was teaching him how to fly. Did she just spend her entire days and nights just sitting on this throne, waiting for someone to come or waiting for something to happen? She's just always just there. Again with the noises with the helmet.
Let's go.
Why did she have to take her helmet off to say that? She fights better than Din Djarin.
Did you think your dad was the only Mandalorian?
No, he's seen many Mandalorians.
Those are Alamites.
What is he cooking him? He's put him on a spit. Oh, just lift the helmet up a little bit.
Any Mandalorian worth their honor was
That's
raised
not
on
drinking,
this.
man.
They were his size.
What happened? Did he just fall down? The weight of his armor? But what about her armor? It's a mythosaur. Helmet's not pressurized, bubbles coming out. That's the end of the episode. Okay, so definitely a better episode than last week in regards to the fact that it just told one story. There was no time jumps, there was no jumping around or anything like that, but they didn't really let up on the stupid. So, as I mentioned, as we go back to the very beginning of the episode, of course we come across the Jawa fucker who pretty much fucking rips off this Rhodian. It seems that she took apart his ship so that she could try and sell him back his engines or his motors or his... basically fucked him over completely. And it's like I mentioned as we were going through as well. She can just understand everyone. She can speak Jawanese, all of that sort of thing. It was all stupid. Basically, the purpose of Din Djarin going there was to get the part for the droid, the IG-11 droid. And it's so funny that Grief Kargas, you know, mentions to him, you could use just another droid, use another droid. And he's like, no, I need one I can trust. I just want the IG-11 droid that I know I can trust. And he goes to her to get a part, and she gives him this beaten up R5 droid, which is the R5 droid from A New Hope, right? Which is pretty much half broken most of the time. Again, I hate this chick in the story. She's stupid, and I hate the fact that they can just understand there's no point for protocol droids anymore or anything like that. So she's like, may the force be with you. And then obviously we get that opening credits. He pretty much jumps again. No hyperspace travel. We're pretty much just at Mandalore. And he sends out the droid to go and, scan the surface to see if it's toxic and see if it can be, breathed in. We went through the problem with this scene in regards to, him releasing the droid out through the bottom of the ship. And of course, it doesn't line up, which is another discrepancy, another inconsistency. He then sends the droid out to go and scan the surface, but instead of the droid just scanning the surface near the ship, which he ends up doing anyway, he sends the droid out, the droid gets a bit fucked up, Din Djarin has to jump out, and of course he seals his helmet and leaves Grogu in the cockpit. The problem is with that is that he opens up the cockpit canopy, and of course Grogu's breathing in the possible poison air. And even later on, Grogu wants to get out. He's like, no, we need to check whether or not the air is toxic or not. So again, more discrepancies. He has the fight with those stupid beast things, this fight here, which it seems that, again, the Darksaber just is really heavy for him, and I find it funny that it's really heavy for him when he uses it, and he beats them eventually, but he does get beaten the shit out of. And then when Bo-Katan wields the Darksaber later, not heavy, it's perfectly fine, and of course, she just beats the shit out of 3 of these creatures when Din Djarin really struggled with it. So again, we'll come up to that. So he beats them, he goes back to the ship with the R5 droid, and of course he does the scan right here. He could have done the scan in the ship, basically, by the looks of things. So he says to Grogu, no, you can't get out of the ship until I've checked whether or not the planet's surface is toxic. The planet's surface isn't toxic. He lets Grogu out and they go on their little adventure down into the caves. While they're down in the caves, he comes across a helmet that he then picks up out of the ground. And of course, he gets trapped by this spider techno beast thing, right? Grogu tries to save him using the Force. And Din Djarin's like, get to Bo-Katan. And she's, because he pointed out to Grogu earlier that she's on like one of the other moons, which isn't far away, right? So Grogu goes and does that. We get to see that scene from the trailer where he pushes that beast outside the cave, and he jumps into the ship and flies away. He goes and sees Bo-Katan. Of course, Bo-Katan can't understand Grogu, which I must admit is quite a surprise due to the fact that, you know, warps and beeps and stuff like that from the droids and Rhodians and all this kind of thing, the Jawa fucker can actually understand. But, you know, anyway. So Bo-Katan asks her droid to scan R5 to see where they've been, okay? So she then takes her ship, leaves Din Djarin's ship on the planet that she was on the moon that she was on, and Grogu leads her through the cave so that they can get to Din Djarin. She talks to Grogu about how she knew some Mandalorians and all of that, knew some Jedi, and, you know, you must be quite powerful in the Force if you were to make it back to my planet without getting, you know, fucked up or anything like that. She then finds Din Djarin. Before that, obviously, she has her little fight with these creatures. Right? And she just dominates. Absolutely dominates. Not like Din Djarin. He had problems with 3 of them, and she can just absolutely destroy 3 of them. She finally makes it to where Din Djarin is, and obviously this creature is harvesting his blood or something. I don't really know exactly what he's doing or why he's doing it. We don't really get an idea. But of course, then they start fighting. She starts getting zapped, and she sees the Darksaber and grabs hold of it with her ropes, and she starts wielding the Darksaber. Again, the Darksaber's not heavy at all. She stabs this creature, and of course the creature falls to the ground, but then wakes back up again.
Can you hear me?
Right, while she's trying to help Din Djarin, and the head just crawls away.
I'm gonna get you out of here, all right?
So this creature, right, was in that big spider droid thing inside this body, and then when this body becomes no longer usable, it's literally just a head, right? This tiny little head too. Let me just go back and show you. This tiny little head, and it's alive, right? And she's like, oh, Din, are you trying to tell me something? And Din Djarin's like, behind you. And he's back inside the big spider beast thing. Cuts off all its limbs and everything, and cuts off the big head of this droid, but the little head then dies within the big head. Right? So, here you go. Slices down, cuts the big head off, and the little head inside the big head dies now. Kind of interesting that, you know, she can stab the body that it was in when it was just like human size, and the head can crawl away. She chops off the big head, which the little head is inside of, but the little head is no longer alive now. So she saves Din Djarin, takes him back up to the surface, right? Cooks him some tea or something like this. And again, it's quite funny how she gives it to him and the way that he drinks it without removing his helmet, right? Let me just go back here really quickly. Oh, come on, don't do this. So he drinks it, like, just under the helmet, and it doesn't even look like he can get the cup to his lips, really, to be completely honest with you. He gives the rest of the drink to Grogu, and then he's like, I'm not going with you. I'm going to the waters, the living waters in the caves of Mandalore. She says, I'll take you there, right? She talks about how, you know, her father was died defending Mandalore, and he's like, this is the way. And then they finally make it to the waters, right? She goes, I want to give you the full tour, and of course just reads this plaque that's on the wall, just exposition to give the explanation of what these living waters apparently are. And Din Djarin walks in, reciting the creed that we heard in that opening episode, with the opening scene of the opening episode with the kid. So as he's going into the water, he's saying the creed, and maybe the weight of his armor makes him just sink. And fuck, he goes a long way. And then as she's coming up, after she rescues him, she sees the mythosaur in the water. Now she screams, and bubbles come up from underneath her helmet. Now I thought these helmets were able to be sealed off so that they've got oxygen. I mean, she's been in the water for a damn long time. So I don't know how she survived that. I don't know how Din Djarin survived that, being that they went down, I don't know, it seemed like a few kilometers, maybe? At least, I mean, for a mythosaur to be hiding under there, you would think that it's got to be pretty damn deep, right? She gets up, she comes out, and that's the end of the episode. So I'm going to say again, this episode was a better episode than last week in regards to the fact that it just told this isolated little story, and straight off the bat, he's succeeded in his the big mission of him having to bath himself on Mandalore to be forgiven for his transgressions. So again, I'm wondering what we're going to be leading into, because everything that was set up from last week's episode with the IG-11 droid, not needed anymore. Doesn't care. Doesn't need the memory, the new memory for the droid. Doesn't need any parts for it because he's got his R5 droid now. The bath that he needed to take to be forgiven for his transgressions, he has now taken that bath. So what is this now going to be? Is it going to be Bo-Katan wanting the Darksaber so that she can come back and rule Mandalore? Is he going to go back to his creed now? Say he took his bath and the surface isn't toxic. We can all go and live on Mandalore and make it great again. Make Mandalore great again. Maybe that's what the entire season is. But again, the beginning part is the main part that's got a lot of stupid in it. A lot of bullshit in regards to the Jawa fucker talking to this guy. Right? Just completely understanding Rodian. Completely understanding the Jawas. Again, I pointed this out earlier, right? So let me just go back here.
Right, let's get this thing back together again. Quickly, before he sees you. Go, go.
She's talking to the Jawas. Let's get this thing back. Quick, go.
Go, go, go. Put those parts back on the speeder. Paint them so they look different. Here you go.
Paint them so they look different. Here you go. She's talking to them in basic. But then when Mando shows up and he goes, oh, I need a part for a droid, he's like, she's like calls out to her droids to tell the Jawas to come back. They come back and we get this.
Memory circuit.
Like, what happened? She was just talking to them in basic and they understood. Why does she need to now speak to them in Jawanese? We already don't get any translations for what they say. By the way, Grogu can now just walk around, walk really quickly, use the Force to jump out of the cockpit into her arms, use the Force again to move that beast out of his way so that he can get to Bo-Katan. It's like chop and choose when he wants to use it and what he wants to use it for and how powerful he can be with it. Now, I know that everyone's going to be like, but Rhino, Grogu was training with Luke for 2 years and he trained in the temple for how many years? Like 20 years or something. So he can use the Force. So I know he can use the Force, but it's still fucking stupid. She can also understand this droid.
Of course you are.
So beep, 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 beep. Of course you are. You're built for adventure. I can understand you too. I can understand Rodian. I can understand everyone. And of course, we have to make up what the droid is saying or what the Jawas are saying based on her responses. Then, of course, the whole May the Force be with you. That's fucking stupid as well.
May the Force be with you!
Yeah, because she knows all about May the Force be with you. And then you obviously go to Mandalore, and that's when all that other stupid shit happens. Also, just want to point out again, the entire thing with this droid being popped out through the bottom of the ship. Right? That's where the pod lines up, and there's no dome over the pod anymore. They just removed that, and I'm pretty sure in the Book of Boba Fett, she said that she converted that space from an astromech pod to like a passenger pod. There's no astromech capabilities in there anymore. But of course, just like I said, I want to show you. So Mando pushes the button. Droid comes out, pops out behind the engine there, and then like I said, it doesn't line up at all. Rhino, you're nitpicking. No, that's just you being lazy with your brain and not caring about it because Grogu cute. Didn't need to roll away to scan the atmosphere. The second half of the episode is at least decent. And like I said, at least this is one little isolated story. It's not jumping from planet to planet to planet to planet. Other than the fact that, again, we go from Tatooine to here in a split second. No travel time. We're just there. You know, there's nothing to show us sort of time going by. Now, I don't mind them having time jumps and stuff in there in regards to that necessarily, but it just seems to be constant unless they want to show some jangling keys like the space whales. Anyway, that's pretty much my thoughts on the episode. It was definitely better than last week, but it still had a lot of fucking stupid in it. And of course, the nostalgia's there, the jangling keys with the R5. We don't need IG-11 anymore. That entire plot point from last week's episode is now completely pointless. Completely pointless. I didn't know how he was going to repair it anyway after his head got crushed by a bust. Now that's thinking with your head. Last week's episode got like a 3 out of 10. This week's episode isn't much better because there's still a lot of stupid in there. It might be a 4 or 4.5 out of 10. Maybe a 5 at most out of 10. But anyway, like I said, that's my thoughts on it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think of the episode? What's your rating for the episode? What do you think of all these stupid elements to it? Let me know in the comments below. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next week for episode 3. Later, guys.